Welcome to Old Lantern Tales, where every story holds a secret, shadows, mysteries, and whispers from the past, all waiting for you. Let's begin. Chapter 1: Moriarty's Warning. The gas lamps along Baker Street sputtered violently, sending long, grotesque shadows crawling across the walls of 221B. On the evening of October 12, 1894, London seemed to hold its breath, the fog pressing against the window panes as if listening. Holmes sat rigid in his chair, eyes sharp, scanning the evening papers with a precision that made Watson's unease almost palpable. Headlines screamed of crimes so meticulous they mocked Scotland Yard itself. Disappearances, thefts, murders, executed with a cruel artistry only a mind like Moriarty's could conceive. Watson shifted, a nervous whisper escaping him. The streets, they feel different tonight. Heavier. Waiting. Holmes didn't answer at once. Instead, his fingers traced invisible lines across the table, as though connecting the chaos of the city into a pattern only he could perceive. A particular envelope caught his attention, lying atop the papers. Dated October 10th, 1894, the watermark nearly invisible, yet to Holmes it was a signature of malevolence. "Notice the embossing, Watson," he murmured, lifting the envelope like it might bite. "Deliberate, precise. Someone wants us to know we are seen." Watson's eyes widened. Moriarty. Holmes' lips curled into something halfway between a smile and a grimace. "He is not a man tonight, but a shadow, and shadows have teeth." The envelope opened with a whisper, releasing a folded note sealed in dark, ceremonial wax. Holmes picked it up delicately, as if it were alive, his eyes scanning the looping penmanship. "Each stroke is a thread, Watson. Not information, manipulation. Fear disguised as civility." A sudden chill ran through the room. The lamp flickered, then dimmed for a heartbeat. Shadows seemed to stretch toward them, twisting across the rug. Watson glanced at the corners of the room. Could he be here? Watching? Holmes' gaze never left the note. Perhaps. Or perhaps he prefers the longer game, where anticipation, dread, and silence do the work for him. He unfolded the paper, letting the dim lamplight play over the ink, making it dance in slow, sinister patterns. His voice cut the stillness, low and deliberate. "The first clue lies not in the streets you patrol, but in the hearts you cherish. Before the dawn of October 15th, a shadow will fall where light once dwelled." Watson's breath caught. It could mean anyone. Holmes' eyes met his, sharp as a scalpel. "Precisely. Fear is indiscriminate, Watson, but dread is surgical. He wants us unsettled, yet focused. That is his artistry." He rose, pacing the small room, each step a measured calculation. "Consider the pattern of the so-called perfect crimes. Too precise, too deliberate, each one a thread converging at a knot. And that knot may be closer than we dare imagine." A sudden noise, a soft scratching, like nails on wood, made both men freeze. The fire popped violently. Shadows flickered unnaturally. Holmes' hand hovered over the note, tracing the final line, his finger trembling slightly, betraying a rare trace of unease. "The first move is yours, but the cost will be dear, and it begins with someone you hold closest." Silence pressed against them heavier than London fog. Holmes' voice, low and urgent, pierced it. "Do you feel it, Watson? That prickle at the back of your neck? That is anticipation and dread, intertwined, exquisite, yet lethal. And we are already participants." The room seemed to breathe, shadows curling as if alive. A dark flicker passed across the rug, not cast by the fire. Watson's heart raced, his eyes darting to every corner. Holmes' jaw tightened, his mind leaping ahead, connecting invisible threads. "We cannot falter," he whispered, almost to himself. "Every step from this moment draws us deeper into Moriarty's design. And the first victim," he paused, letting the weight of the words sink, "may already have been chosen." The wind rattled the window panes, carrying faint whispers from the streets outside, like a city holding a secret. Holmes folded the note, sealing it again with a careful, deliberate gesture. His eyes gleamed with both fascination and dread. "And if we think we understand the first move," he said softly, voice barely more than a hiss, "we are already part of it." He watches, waits, and when the time comes, the trap will be revealed. And we may have no choice but to play. Watson swallowed, sensing that the quiet terror of the evening had shifted into something inescapable. Somewhere, beyond the fog-choked streets of London, a smile lingered in the darkness, a smile that promised horror, precision, and inevitability. Holmes straightened, his coat brushing the shadowed walls. "Mark my words, Watson, it begins tonight. And by dawn, nothing and no one will be untouched." Chapter 2: The First Puzzle. The fog thickened as we moved through London on the evening of October 13th, 1894, swallowing sound, smothering distance, turning familiar streets into something alien and watchful. The carriage wheels whispered against the cobblestones, each rotation carrying us farther from safety and deeper into a design neither of us yet understood. Holmes stood rigid beside me, eyes fixed on the void ahead, not searching, but measuring. London, to him, was no city tonight. It was a board, and somewhere within its folds, a hand had already made the first move. "Slow down, Watson," he murmured suddenly. "Notice the silence." I did. No footsteps, no voices. Even the gas lamps burned low, their glow struggling against the fog as if afraid to be seen. At the threshold of a narrow riverside building, Holmes stopped. A smear marked the doorframe, barely visible, a fingerprint dragged downward with deliberate care. "Too high for accident," he said softly. "Too deliberate for carelessness." I felt my throat tighten. "Moriarty." Holmes didn't answer immediately. He bent closer, inhaled once, sharply. He was here, and more importantly, he wanted us to know. On the step lay a note, its edges scorched but never consumed, sealed with the same dark wax that had haunted Baker Street the night before. Holmes held it beneath the wavering lamp, his eyes scanning faster than I could follow. "Commas misplaced," he whispered. "Words doubled. Not errors, distortions. He's not guiding us forward. He's bending the path." The warehouse by the Thames loomed ahead, timbers bowed with age, windows blackened like blind eyes. Inside, the air was stale and cold, heavy with rot, and something worse, expectation. Crates formed corridors that led nowhere. Staircases ended abruptly. Shadows folded over one another, refusing to settle. Holmes knelt beside a footprint pressed deep into the dust. "Notice the pressure," he said. "Not haste, not fear. Precision." He wanted us to see this. A sound drifted through the fog, soft, hollow. A laugh. No, too distant, too controlled. My heart pounded. "We're being watched." Holmes straightened slowly. "No, Watson. We are being timed." On a beam above us hung a small carved token, Moriarty's emblem, etched with obsessive care. Holmes studied it, lips moving silently. Then he frowned. "This puzzle," he murmured, "does not resolve. It loops." He gestured to a series of scratches in the dust, symbols that connected, then broke apart. Each answer generates another contradiction. A maze designed not to be solved, but to delay. A chill ran through me. Delay what? Holmes' eyes flicked toward the river-facing window. A response. Then came the bell. One clean chime. No clock. No mechanism. The sound vibrated through the warehouse with dreadful authority, like the marking of an invisible hour. Holmes' face changed, not fear, but something colder. "He's marking time," he said, "not ours." The fog inside the warehouse stirred unnaturally. I thought I saw movement, someone standing between the crates. When I looked again, there was nothing, only absence. Holmes bent over the final clue, his voice low, urgent. "This puzzle is alive, Watson. Its purpose is not intellect. It is misdirection. While we think, something elsewhere is happening." A realization struck him mid-sentence. He froze. "No," he whispered. "What is it?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he folded the note sharply, hands suddenly tense. "October 14th, he said. "The date is wrong." "Wrong how?" "It isn't a deadline," he said. "It's a confirmation." The bell chimed again, farther away this time. Holmes turned toward the door, eyes burning. "We were never meant to finish this puzzle. We were meant to stay." A shadow passed across the entrance, slow and deliberate, as if pausing to observe us. Then it was gone. Outside, London slept, ignorant, breathing softly, unaware that a decision had already been made in its name. Holmes' voice dropped to a whisper that cut deeper than any shout. "The first move has been executed. Not here, but because of here." He met my gaze, and for the first time, I saw doubt in him. "And when dawn comes," he said, "we may discover that the first victim was chosen not despite our pursuit, but because of it." Chapter 3: The Shadowed House. The fog thickened on the night of October 14th, 1894, curling like smoke around the skeletal mansion at London's edge. Its tall, shuttered windows glared like accusatory eyes, and every step along the gravel driveway echoed like a drumbeat warning us to turn back. Holmes' gaze swept the overgrown garden with surgical precision. Footprints appeared and vanished, flowers trampled as if someone had fled mid-thought, and faint traces of soot whispered of hands meticulous beyond reason. "Notice this, Watson," he murmured, crouching beside a partially erased boot print. "The direction is inconsistent. Someone wants hesitation, doubt. They want us to think we are clever." A sudden gust rattled the lantern, shadows dancing violently along the stone path. I swallowed, feeling the chill of anticipation crawl up my spine. Could it be Moriarty? Holmes' eyes glimmered in the fog, calculating, sharp. "It is never simply him, Watson. It is the anticipation of him, the threat left behind, shaping the choices of those who dare advance." The front door hung slightly ajar, warped by age. Pushing it open, a draft of cold air met us, carrying the faint scent of wax and acrid smoke, something that had never fully burned. The lantern flickered, shadows stretching unnaturally, contracting as if the house itself were inhaling. Debris crunched underfoot. Echoes carried unnaturally, reverberating with intent. In the main hall, Holmes crouched beside a small wooden chest. Delicate carvings etched into its surface were almost imperceptible, yet unmistakably Moriarty's signature. Inside lay a brittle note referencing an obscure incident only Holmes and the master criminal could know. Reading aloud, he intoned, "A past transgression remembered, an invitation to tread carefully, for every step leaves an imprint." Shadows stretched, bending around the corners like black tendrils. I felt them coil around me, pressing closer with silent menace. Holmes' attention shifted to the staircase. Each step groaned under our weight, amplified in the deadened air as though mocking our intrusion. At the top, we discovered a room where the floorboards bore scratches mimicking the solution to the first puzzle, a cruel, silent message that Moriarty had anticipated our arrival. Faint scrawls on the wall hinted at a potential victim, a choice frozen in time. Intervene or allow tragedy. A cracked mirror reflected the lantern's flicker, and something more. A shadow moved independently of any physical source, hovering, intangible, observing every hesitation. "Watson," Holmes whispered, voice taut with tension, "do you see it? Each mark, each shadow, a test. We are being measured, judged, perhaps toyed with." My pulse quickened as the house itself seemed to flex and stretch in response to our presence. It was no longer refuge, it was weapon, a labyrinth designed for psychological torment. Objects were traps. Air itself bore warnings. Silence pressed down like a weight, thick with expectation. A sudden, sharp creak above froze us mid-step. Time seemed to pause, each heartbeat ringing louder than the last. Holmes' voice dropped, reverent and taut. That sound, he knows we listen. He knows we advance cautiously. And yet, his eyes narrowed, glinting with a mixture of curiosity and concern. We must. Ascending, every step became a negotiation between instinct and necessity. In the attic, a small writing desk awaited, open to reveal a folded note sealed with Moriarty's emblem. Holmes' expression darkened as he read aloud. "I see you, Holmes. The next step belongs to me." The letters cut through the cold, still air, precise, cruel, intimate. Holmes' jaw tightened. Fingers gripped the paper like a lifeline. Every shadow, Watson, every creak, every breath of air is part of him. And this house? A single move in a far larger design. His eyes flicked to me, sharp and serious. Hesitate, and we do not merely risk failure. We risk lives. A sudden gust slammed the attic window, the lantern flickering violently. Outside, the fog pressed against the panes like living fingers, insistent and searching. Holmes whispered, almost to himself, "He is here always. And this house is only the overture. The symphony has barely begun." Then, a faint sound. Deliberate footsteps echoed through the empty halls, yet no one appeared. Holmes' eyes glinted in the dim lamplight, calculating, cold. Prepare yourself, Watson. The next step will not wait. And whoever thought themselves merely a witness may already be a participant in the design itself. I froze. Somewhere, in the heart of this labyrinthine mansion, the game had already moved. And for the first time, I understood. Moriarty did not merely anticipate our arrival. He had orchestrated it. And someone close was already caught in the snare. Chapter 4: Moriarty's Logic. Fog draped over Baker Street on the night of October 15th, 1894, curling around gas lamps and slick cobblestones as though the city itself shivered under an unseen weight. Even familiar streets seemed alien, distorted, haunted by a presence invisible yet absolute. Holmes and I returned to 221B, our steps muted, yet every shadowed corner whispered intrusion. Holmes paused at the doorway, eyes scanning the fog like a predator. Notice, Watson, even the fog moves as if directed. There is rhythm here. Someone is cataloging us. I shivered. Moriarty. He allowed a faint, controlled smile. Not he, the anticipation of him. Every pause, every breath, every glance is recorded. The city itself is his chessboard. Inside, the study was chaos. Papers and books littered the floor like fragments of a fractured mind, clippings forming a lattice of manipulation. Holmes' eyes darted across them, fingers tracing invisible threads. Observe the timing, he whispered, voice low, almost reverent. Every headline, every note, deliberate, recursive, cruel. The first puzzle was child's play compared to this. He lifted a folded slip from a drawer, eyes narrowing. Read this, he murmured. Observe, deduce, or lose more than you think. A chill pressed through the room. The fog outside thickened, crawling along the windowsills like living fingers. Holmes moved methodically from desk to window, tracing letters, clippings, and faint scratches in the wood. Moriarty's logic is a spiral, Watson. Solve one puzzle, another opens. Every step costs more than thought. And someone, perhaps someone we know, is already caught in the chain. A movement flickered outside. A figure, just a shadow, swallowed immediately by fog. My pulse raced. Holmes did not turn. Notice, he murmured, voice tight, how even the simplest gesture is catalogued. The rhythm of life itself is a pattern to him. Every street, alley, whisper, every breath feeds his design. Hours passed. Silence was broken only by Holmes' quiet calculations, the scratching of ink, the shuffling of papers. Shadows stretched across the walls like smoke, curling, retreating, anticipating. Then, a folded note slid silently beneath the door. Holmes' hand trembled slightly as he picked it up. Your intellect serves you well, Holmes, but even the sharpest mind cannot foresee every ending. Decide, or lives will be lost. He read aloud, letting each word hang like a blade. Notice the precision, Watson. A single hesitation, a misstep, could trigger consequences we cannot anticipate. Every glance, every breath, a thread in his web. I felt the room constrict around us, the fog pressing in as if the city itself exhaled with intent. Holmes moved to the window, eyes scanning the streets, taut with calculation. Mark it, Watson. The first step may have already determined who survives and who dies. Moriarty does not merely observe. He engineers. And patience is the deadliest weapon he wields. Outside, a distant bell tolled, hollow and deliberate. Holmes' eyes glinted. Do you hear it? Not a clock, a signal, a heartbeat. His design pulses through the streets, the night, even this room. And the next move, his voice dropped to a whisper that carried weight, sharp as a knife. Will not wait for mercy. A sudden flicker of candlelight revealed a figure reflected in the window, motionless, yet unmistakably present. It vanished the moment I blinked, leaving only the certainty that someone, somewhere, was already caught in his game. Holmes' jaw tightened. The recursive nature of his logic is clear, Watson. The city is one mechanism. We are pieces, yes, but not the kings. Not yet. October 16th, 1894, will not pass quietly. Someone will pay for every hesitation, and Moriarty will ensure we feel it, personally. A shadow passed across the doorway. Holmes' hand hovered near his coat, ready, his eyes glinting in the dim lamplight. Prepare yourself, Watson. We are no longer merely observers. We are players in a trap of his own making. And someone close, someone dear, may already be beyond our reach. The fog swirled outside, twisting around the gas lamps as if alive. And somewhere in the labyrinth of London, Moriarty watched. He waited. And the city, every street, every alley, was primed to obey the sharpest, cruelest logic imaginable. Chapter 5: The Trap. Night had fallen over London on October 16, 1894, cloaking the city in a velvet shroud. Fog curled around gas lamps, twisting familiar streets into a labyrinth of shadow. Holmes moved with measured precision, Watson close behind, each breath controlled, every muscle taut with anticipation. Even the lantern's pale flame quivered, casting shadows that slithered along walls and cobblestones, as though the city itself were alive, complicit in the trap. "Notice, Watson," Holmes whispered, voice sharp, almost a growl. "Every reflection, every flicker of light, engineered. He does not merely observe. He anticipates. Even the fog is his ally." I swallowed hard, gripping the lantern tighter. Could he be here already? Holmes' eyes glinted in the dim light. "He is everywhere and nowhere, my friend. And this warehouse, it is no ordinary location. It is a crucible." The Thameside warehouse loomed ahead, abandoned yet ordered with terrifying precision. Crates, beams, and shadows were positioned like a map, anticipating every movement. Holmes paused at the threshold, scanning marks in the dust, patterns visible only to a mind attuned to Moriarty. "See here," he murmured, tracing a trail of soot with his gloved finger, a breadcrumb of misdirection. A test of observation. One misstep, and someone pays the price. Inside, mirrors reflected lantern light in disorienting ways, creating illusions that twisted perception. Shadows writhed along the walls, forming shapes that seemed alive. Watson faltered, eyes watching us. Holmes' voice was low, firm, razor-sharp. "Yes, Watson, eyes that are not bound by flesh. He manipulates the world itself, light, shadow, sound, as if reality were clay in his hands." A sudden clatter from above made us jump. Dust rained from the ceiling as a crate shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly. Holmes crouched, analyzing trajectories, deducing intention from the faintest detail. "Every element has purpose," he murmured. "Notice the spacing of crates, the slant of beams, the draft across the floor. All engineered to provoke hesitation." A shadow flitted near the far corner, fleeting and indistinct. Holmes' eyes narrowed. Moriarty, or a signal. Every fleeting form is a challenge. Ignore it, and folly. Approach it, and peril. At the warehouse's heart, a narrow corridor awaited. Crates hemmed us in, echoes magnified with every step. Holmes discovered a folded note beneath a beam, stamped with Moriarty's dark seal. He read aloud slowly, letting each word pierce the thick, oppressive air. "Step wisely, Holmes. One miscalculation, and the city pays the price." The lantern trembled in my hands, shadows stretching like reaching fingers. Then, something shifted behind us. A faint, agonized cry cut through the fog of the warehouse. My blood ran cold. Holmes' head snapped toward the sound, eyes blazing. "Watson, the trap is alive. It is not merely anticipation. It is consequence. Someone is already caught." Step by deliberate step, we advanced. Crates shifted subtly, corners revealed false paths, shadows wriggled as if alive. Holmes paused, listening to the faintest vibrations. The warehouse itself seemed to breathe, pulsating with malevolent intent. "Recursive, Watson," he muttered, voice low. "Every observation, every deduction, leads to another puzzle. And every puzzle carries a cost. Courage, instinct, nerve, all tested simultaneously." Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed through the corridor, followed by a fleeting silhouette disappearing into the darkness. My heart thumped violently. Holmes' hand hovered near the lantern, alert to every whisper, every creak, every phantom movement. "Understand this, Watson," he said, voice steady yet reverent. "The trap is not just a puzzle. It is manipulation, threat, inevitability, and the first consequences are unfolding even now." Another cry, closer this time, cut through the fog. Holmes' jaw tightened. He folded the note, lips pressed thin, eyes fixed on some unseen horizon. "Prepare yourself," he whispered. "The game has begun in earnest. Whoever believed themselves observers is already a participant, and someone dear may already have been claimed by the design." The fog pressed against the windows, curling like serpents around gas lamps. Crates shifted, shadows stretched, the warehouse pulsed with intention. Step by step, breath by measured breath, we were ensnared in a web of intellect, courage, and terror, one misstep from irrevocable devastation. And somewhere, beyond sight, Moriarty watched, smiled, and waited. The trap had sprung. The first victim was already chosen. Chapter 6: The Confrontation. The warehouse lay in near darkness on October 17th, 1894, broken only by the trembling flame of a single lantern. Fog curled through the open windows, carrying the scent of smoke, damp wood, and faint acrid chemicals, an invisible signature of Moriarty. Every plank, every crate, every shadow seemed to lean inward, listening, measuring. Holmes moved like a shadow himself, each step deliberate, senses taut. I followed close behind, every nerve screaming vigilance. "Watson, avoid the third floorboard to the left. Step lightly past the crate at 10 o'clock, Holmes whispered, voice low, precise. Each irregularity, each dust pattern, a trap or a message. Notice everything. From the far end, a figure stepped into a narrow shaft of lantern light. Tall, precise, composed, Moriarty. His movements were fluid, calculated, almost theatrical. A faint glint of metal, the corner of a reflective emblem, caught the lantern's flame. His expression was unreadable, hidden beneath the mask of calm control. Holmes' mind raced, angles, shadows, and timing flicking like a mental chessboard. I froze, muscles coiled, eyes darting to every dark corner where death could strike or vanish in an instant. Moriarty's voice cut through the thick, tense air. "Holmes, always 3 steps behind, yet still so proud. Tell me, do you truly see the path ahead, or do the shadows still blind you?" Holmes' lips twitched in a faint, knowing smile. "I see more than you intend, Moriarty. Every hesitation, every misdirection, whispers secrets you think hidden." He gestured subtly toward a loose plank underfoot. A faint creak echoed, almost imperceptible. "That movement. Not random. Your signature." Moriarty's smile thinned, controlled, threatening. "And yet, Holmes, every signature can be faked. Every whisper, a trap waiting for the unwary." A rope shifted across a beam, scraping metal softly. "Observe carefully. Every breath, every sound, is part of the design." Suddenly, a metallic clang rang out. A beam wobbled and fell, missing Watson by inches. Dust cascaded through the air. My heart thudded violently. Holmes' eyes flicked to the danger, calculating in an instant. He is testing reflexes, patience, nerve. One misstep, and the cost is immediate. The confrontation became a lethal ballet of deduction and motion. Moriarty darted behind crates, reappeared, forcing Holmes to recalibrate constantly. Shadows stretched across beams, dust swirled, and faint footprints seemed to vanish only to reappear. Holmes murmured under his breath, 3 possibilities from here. Choose the path least observed. Every other choice favors him. Watson's voice trembled. He's everywhere, or nowhere. Holmes, what do we do? Holmes' gaze never left the figure, sharp and unyielding. We observe, predict, and force him to reveal himself. Watch the tilt of his shoulder, the slightest pause. He always telegraphs intent. Predict, and the advantage is yours, but only briefly. A small, calculated movement from Holmes disrupted Moriarty's advantage. The villain staggered slightly, a split-second exposure. The faintest smirk betrayed the faintest flicker of human error, but it vanished almost immediately. Holmes whispered, almost reverently, "Every mark, every soot trail, every shifted beam, part of a pattern. The city itself is his instrument, and we are playing within it, whether we know it or not." From the darkness, a muffled cry echoed, sharp, short, unmistakably human. My blood ran cold. Holmes froze for a heartbeat, then whispered, voice taut with gravity, "Someone already caught. The trap has teeth, Watson, and it bites before we arrive." Outside, fog pressed against the windows like living serpents, curling around lamplight. Every sound, the distant bell, a dripping pipe, the scuttle of rats, felt like a coded message. Holmes traced patterns across crates, dust, and shadows. "Remember this moment," he said quietly. "Every puzzle solved is a prelude. The trap is never fully sprung." Moriarty watches, calculating. And this confrontation is only the opening act. He turned, eyes glinting with deadly focus. The Moriarty Conundrum is far from over. Every shadow, every letter, every mechanism signals another move. And London, our city, is the board upon which the pieces fall. A sudden creak overhead made Watson flinch. Holmes' head flicked skyward, calculating in an instant. Do not look away. Every second could reveal a secret or hide the cost of hesitation. As we stepped back into the fog-laden streets, the weight of the encounter pressed down. The warehouse exhaled around us, empty yet alive with unseen traps and whispered calculations. Somewhere, in the twisting fog and lamplit alleys of London, Moriarty's mind waited, silent, invisible, uncatchable, and relentless. A chilling whisper seemed to curl around my spine, carried on the wind. "By the time you see the next move, the cost will already be paid." Holmes' voice lingered, barely above a whisper, heavy with portent. "Prepare yourself, Watson. The true game begins now." The fog swallowed us whole, but the sense of unseen eyes and immediate peril remained. And somewhere, just beyond perception, the next trap was already alive, set to claim its first victim before dawn. Chapter 7. Watson's reflection. Dawn crept over Baker Street on October 18th, 1894, spilling pale light through the tall windows of 221B, yet the morning brought little warmth. The chill clung to Watson's bones like the London fog curling stubbornly around the streets below. Every shadow of the warehouse, every cryptic note, every fleeting glimpse of Moriarty replayed in his mind, sharper, darker, alive. He sat across from Holmes, who remained calm, yet distant, meticulously annotating fragments of riddles and scattered clues. Watson's open journal seemed woefully inadequate to capture the razor-edged tension that still clung to the room. The warehouse, the twisting shadows that moved independently, mirrors bending lantern light into trickery, the faint outline of a figure vanishing and reappearing at will, haunted him. Each footstep had been a choice, each decision a gamble. The thought of Moriarty, orchestrating chaos with surgical intellect, sent shivers crawling up his spine. Their victory, he realized, had been partial, tactical, a fleeting reprieve against a mind that had already anticipated every move. Outside, London stirred to life, streets illuminated by the early sun, yet Watson knew the calm was fragile. Somewhere, the mastermind's influence threaded through alleys and lamp posts, a silent architecture of danger woven invisibly into the city. Holmes spoke, voice low, precise. "Watson, intellect alone is a tool, not a shield. Even the sharpest minds cannot foresee everything, especially when the game itself reshapes reality." Watson studied him, noting the faint tension at the corner of Holmes' eyes, the subtle pause before returning to his notes. Even the master of deduction felt the weight of Moriarty's shadow. Holmes traced a scrap of paper, murmuring almost reverently. "Observe the margin. Note the pattern. He leaves breadcrumbs for the vigilant, traps for the complacent. Always both." Watson's pen hovered, suddenly inadequate. How could he record a mind that existed beyond every corner, every street, every pattern? Across the desk lay the final cryptic clues, folded notes, annotations, symbols faintly etched into paper. None were fully resolved. Some lines seemed to echo, whispering across the room, hints of a puzzle that had no end, or at least no end yet revealed. He reached for a curled, soiled slip of paper, hesitated, and let it lie untouched. Somewhere, in the invisible spaces threading through the city, Moriarty had already moved on, leaving only traces, suggestions, and challenges. Watson imagined the unseen calculations, the precise placement of shadows, reflections, traps invisible to all but the most attentive. Victory had been earned, but only by inches, only by risk, and only temporarily. Watson recalled the near misses, the victims spared by a hair, the margins separating life from catastrophe. The case had transcended mere criminal genius. It was now a study of perception, courage, and the fragility of certainty. Holmes had acted with surgical precision, yet Watson could feel tension coiling in the corners of the room, shadows lengthening, deliberate, watching. The warehouse, the fog, the mirrored illusions, they lingered, etched into memory like snares ready to spring again. Holmes looked up from his notes, voice calm, yet edged with gravity. Watson, never forget. He does not merely threaten. He anticipates. And anticipation is the deadliest weapon. Watson finally set pen to paper, capturing the night's events with meticulous urgency, as though each word could stave off repetition, delay the inevitable. Holmes remained quiet, unreadable, eyes tracing clues and shadows that lingered even in daylight. Watson understood the unspoken truth. Moriarty was not defeated, only delayed. Every riddle left behind, every vanished trace, was a thread leading back to the same mind that had orchestrated chaos with surgical exactitude. Some conundrums, he realized, were eternal. The city awoke, streets alive with oblivious motion. Watson glanced once more at the world outside the window. Somewhere, beyond lamp posts and alleyways, the architect of the night waited. Holmes might be the sharper mind, but Moriarty's reach was long, subtle, and precise. Watson closed the journal, heart still quickened. This chapter had concluded, but the game persisted, unbroken, and the city remained very much a part of it. Then, a soft creak from the street below froze him in place. Holmes' eyes narrowed, voice a whisper, carrying both warning and certainty. He moves again, Watson, and when he does, the threads will tighten, farther than even we can perceive. This is never truly over. The fog seemed to curl higher, as if swallowing the city whole. London held its breath, and somewhere, hidden in plain sight, Moriarty was already weaving the next stage of his conundrum, invisible, inevitable, and watching, smiling at the chessboard only he could see. Watson exhaled slowly, realizing that the night's victory had been only a momentary reprieve. Every shadow, every whisper, every inch of the city was now part of a game without end, a game in which they were players. But he, Watson, understood the truth at last. Moriarty always wins in ways you cannot yet perceive. And just like that, the city felt alive with anticipation once more, every alleyway and lamp post a reminder that the game had only begun. Thank you for visiting Old Lantern Tales. The stories don't end here. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a secret from the shadows. Until next time, keep your lanterns burning.